Here it is, another edition of Full Court Press on the Washington Wizards Podcast Network with Glenn Consor. We are with ESPN Sage Steele. Yeah, she may be with ESPN, but we still claim her here in the DC area from all those wonderful years at Comcast Sports. And Sage, first of all, just so great to connect with you. And, we're all sharing experiences right now. And I think, can you just share a little bit of how you're getting through this period of time?
Yeah, first of all, I was so happy when you guys reached out because it's like a trip down memory lane. I cannot believe that I left Comcast Sports at Mid-Atlantic, DC in 2007 to come here to ESPN. And it's truly a lifetime ago, but I would not have achieved this ESPN dream without my 6 years there with you guys. And you put up with a lot for me and carried me a lot. So awesome memories there. Right now, yeah, I keep telling my kids, like, gosh, if the sun would just come out, then it would feel a little more bearable. But when you're stuck inside and there's snow flurries in April, you're like, what am I doing? But listen, perspective. That's what I have really tried to maintain from day one. And it's true. Like, I think most of us are quite fortunate. Everybody's healthy in my house. Are people upset? It's funny. My kids did say recently, they're like, I will never take school for granted again. And I'm like, say it again into this microphone, because I want to make sure no one forgets that. But it's, I think, the little things that we all took for granted, and just the everyday seeing people at a grocery store, being, not feeling like you have to run to the other side of the building when you see another human being. I was back at work on Thursday, the 16th of April for the first time. And I've been off for 5 weeks, and it was really weird to go in. It's like a ghost town. I chose, and my bosses are amazing. I chose to stay home. I asked to stay home because I just felt the need to be here with my kids. And I've always preached family first. And as much as I love my job and I had some guilt, I was torn. I feel like I'm a good teammate, and to not be there when my 6 p.m. SportsCenter show continued on the air has been hard. But sometimes you have to practice what you preach. And I put my kids first. And they're probably glad to see me leave the house again, to go to work. But it's a different world. And even when things get quote unquote back to normal, it's not going to be what it was before. And I hope we're all ready for that.
Sage, we're all kind of in the same boat where we're kind of self-reflecting, and, we all were in this big giant pause to self-reflect. And, you mentioned, your kids and your family. Talk a little bit about really what, if you've learned anything about yourself. I mean, you obviously have missed, going to work and the buzz and the pace of sports. But what have you learned about yourself? Have you missed sports? Have you, what are you learning about your kids? I mean, you and, from a self-reflecting standpoint.
Yeah, I've missed it a ton, but what I miss the most is the camaraderie. I'm such a people person. I'm such a social butterfly. You guys might remember from those newsroom days back at our studio in Bethesda. I love being around people. So I think that was, I knew that about myself, but I've been reminded and how much I need that. I had a little meltdown last night on the phone with my mom. I talked to my parents. I've always talked to them every day. But now it's probably 3 to 4 times a day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm 47 years old. And I'm like, Mom, I need you. I miss my mom, but it's about myself. Yes, that was affirmed to me how much I miss humans and other human contact. I also realized, I guess, again, confirmed that I have some work to do as a parent. I think we get so caught up in life every day and going and then, okay, have you done your homework? Let me take you to this sports practice. And what about this and that? It's like, okay, all that's gone right now. And what do we have? We have our relationships with each other. And not that I've been slacking, but I think life just takes over. And my kids are 14, 16, and almost 18. And we talk about these cliches, right? Oh, it goes so fast as a parent, and they're going to be gone before you know it. And sometimes you're like, hurry up. And now I realized that I probably wasn't putting enough time into them about the things that aren't about sports or school. What about as human beings, So to watch them struggle has been tough, because as a mother, you want to fix everything. and I can't fix this. But what I can do is instill in them appreciation and values. We've been working out together. We've had a really good time doing that. And frankly, we, like on Palm Sunday, I turned on my laptop and we had a Palm Sunday mass in my living room. And I used frosted mini wheats as the communion bread, you know. I've gotten more creative. So, and I've gotten more spiritual, to be honest with you. Like, I mean, I've always had a strong faith, but I've had to spend time alone. God forbid, time alone. What is that? And I feel good, and I feel very fortunate.
I think we all hope that, there'll be, we talk about a new normal, and there's structurally that'll figure itself out, and we'll be told what we can and can't do. But maybe the new normal is, and I think this is what I hope for, is how we are as people. And it's just what you kind of indicated. We don't necessarily need a pause of everything to this degree, but we probably didn't need the go of before. And so is it your belief or thought that not only you, but other people are going to come out of this with a different perspective?
100%. I think that's what I'm most excited about. As I've always been this sometimes annoying glass half full optimistic person, but I have seen so much kindness, so many acts of kindness and so much good, even when you're out and about. If the few times you try to limit your times going to the grocery store, but I've seen that, and people just smiling a little bit more because you're like, wow, you're in this too. We got this together, I really, if it doesn't make us slow down and just really have a different perspective on life, then that's a problem. I really believe we're going to come out of this better, but it is a choice. I say to my kids all the time, happiness is a choice, and it was before, and it certainly is right now as we're in it. And on the other side, do we, continue to move forward with our kindness and helping each other and caring for each other, or do we go back to where we were? If we go back, that's on us.
Sage, I want you to remind me and Dave that what Dave just said, because sometimes I have to tackle him to slow down. Running around the United States with the Wizards with him, it's like I got him on a leash, and he's pulling me, and my feet are off the ground, and I'm flying around with him. So remind me to mention that to him when this thing gets resolved.
But he does it with a smile.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but you notice that even during this time, he still throws me under the bus.
Exactly. Exactly.
I can't help it. I know, I love it.
No, I can't. I tried not to. I couldn't help it. ESPN obviously is the mecca. What are you hearing at ESPN with things coming back and getting back to normal? I mean, obviously, nobody really knows, but ESPN has certainly done a great job of trying to put on the best programming that they could. They've had some really interesting things on there. I really loved, like the other night I watched, I don't know, it was a repeat of something, and it was, they had a bunch of players on. It was great. I like Rachel Nichols' work. What are you hearing? Is ESPN past their curve with all this?
That's a good question. I mean, right now I'm hearing what you guys are hearing, and then we're reporting it as it comes. My first show back on Thursday, Von Miller tests positive for coronavirus. He's the second active NFL player to do so. And so it's like, okay, what does that mean? Obviously there's been a few more names in the NBA to test positive, and it's like, right now our fingers are just crossed. To me, encouraging news with the PGA Tour, the events that are currently still scheduled, and of course without fans or patrons, if it ends up that way still in November, and the Masters is hopefully ongoing, and with or without patrons, who knows? So I just, every day, we get a new little hint, but I try to keep up on social media like everybody else, and just, okay, what are you hearing? What is happening today? I've been really impressed with what ESPN has done. And again, I've just been watching from a distance for most of this time because of my choice to be home. But my show is usually at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 6 to 7. We're 5 to 7. PTI is not airing as usual. And I think Kornheiser is up in his attic somewhere in DC, and Wilbon's out in Scottsdale, Arizona, living the life. And so they take 15 or 20 minutes of our Sports Center show, and they come on with that, tape it early and come on with that. So everybody's trying to do their part. Sports Center is the one show that is not suitable, or I guess they don't believe it's appropriate or that we give the best product if we had us anchors hosting from home. The way it's produced, it's just a little bit too quick and too fast and too many graphics. So they've chosen not to do SportsCenter, which bummed me out because I was dying not working. But the talk shows, they've continued to keep going. That's a little bit easier. And I think people are more forgiving of technical difficulties, which is always a good thing in every platform media-wise. So I've been proud of what ESPN has done. The horse tournament has been fun to watch when you bring WNBA players and NBA players in. What I really can't wait for is the Jordan docs, and to see all 5 of those go and the reaction that's going to come from that. And I need to give my network kudos for that. When I saw that they were moving up the date 6 weeks, you guys know what it's like to produce a long form piece, much less a 10-part series that is this important, frankly. And for them to move it up by 6 weeks, I'm pretty sure there's a whole crew of people not sleeping, not eating to get this thing done and make sure it's suitable. So it is amazing, I think, what my network has done. But let me tell you, the domino effect of this, I don't think any of us will be immune, including ESPN. So we're praying for, not too many furloughs and layoffs, but I don't know many large companies in America who aren't going to have to at least consider that. So again, perspective.
Well, and great to Mike Conley. I guess he had a free throw shot with the blindfold on, was one of his big shots in the horse as he won that. And, I should have stopped the competition there, because I used to try that hold your eyes and shoot and never got it.
Exactly.
You bring up the Michael Jordan, and that's probably been with again, pause for sports on your network, ESPN. Cal Ripken actually finally watched 21-31 for the first time in its entirety. And he was telling me the other day, things he didn't remember because he lived through it. And, I read this morning a clip from Michael Jordan was reminding us why it's called Last Dance, because Phil Jackson was told, you're not coming back. And, either the Jordan documentary or what else, I think we've all had through ESPN wow moments of like a chance to rewatch something and say, I forgot about that. Is there anything that has really stuck out for you that's been cool, or the Jordan documentary?
Yeah, well, the Jordan thing is obviously what I'm looking forward to the most. And it is, I think we all remember where we were during that era. And, the first three-peat, I was in college for most of that. And the second part, I was covering sports and in Indiana covering the Pacers. And, I always think timing, poor Reggie Miller, it's all about timing in sports. And that's just, it's brutal, As far as other things that stick out, it's been really cool to go back and just watch some NCAA tournament games, some of the conference games, and even on Twitter and social media where you're like, remember this shot? And it was when Christian Watford hit the big shot against Kentucky for, I'm a Hoosier. You guys know I'm obnoxious about that. And then someone, I think Bonnie Bernstein brought up something on social media about when Maryland beat Indiana when I was with you guys there in DC in 2002. And I was like, we should not have lost that game. We got you to slow us. We slowed you down, and you had Juan Dixon, you had all these great shooters. And how did we give that game away? And then I got mad again. And then I realized, oh my goodness, actually I was pregnant with my first child during that game, and it felt like I was gonna go into labor. I was so stressed out. Then I had to come into work and be around all you Terps people and Chick Hernandez, and it was obnoxious. Anyway, it's just been cool to go back through and remember where you were. And how about this? Looking back has just made me even more thankful for this career of mine. This was my dream to work at ESPN eventually, and I set out to do this when I was 12 years old. I thought, how cool would it be to be able to do stuff like this and talk about sports for a living and be on ESPN? And the fact that I've gotten to live it and to be able to look back, and now it's 25 years. Good Lord, I'm aging myself. 25 years since I graduated from college, and all the things we've been able to see. So another positive, maybe, okay, we get caught up in what everyday life is in our sports world and the news, and you guys are constantly busy, especially NBA season. But it's cool to stop and look back and remember kind of what got us here, Although with the Jordan stuff, it made me think back to 2001. And my first time around that Wizards team was right after I started there in April. And it was the first time ever, it was the night they fired Leonard Hamilton. That was my first time. And I remember being there, and he came to the podium, and then he was summoned upstairs by Jordan. And so my first, I guess, real vivid memories of Jordan in person was that time frame. And then when he came to play, and then Kwame Brown and that disaster, and then him driving away in whatever sports car that he had when he was kind of dismissed from the Wizards too. I mean, that was surreal, right? That
was quite some time. That really was. There was a lot going on back then with the Wizards. Sage, you mentioned Indiana, and I think I'm correct about this, but your oldest, which I think is Quinn.
Quinn, yes, my daughter.
Is she following in your footsteps and going to be a Hoosier?
I would love to think that, but I don't know, Glenn. I think when we lived in Arizona, we lived in Scottsdale, Arizona for 3 years while I was working NBA Countdown in Los Angeles. So I would just fly in and out because Countdown was on weekends primarily, and I was living in the desert in perfection for 3 years. I think that time in the sun may have ruined her because it ruined me. And so she loved the Bloomington campus. I took her back for the Indiana-Purdue game in February when Bob Knight made his long-awaited return, 20 years, that's a story for another day. But I took her there, and I wanted her to experience a game, and she was in awe. And then, of course, I was walking into Assembly Hall, and some of the students recognized me, and then these, she's got 40 hot guys chanting her name, Quinn, come for you. So she's like, okay, I'm coming. These hot guys want me. I'm like, oh Lord, maybe I should have her come. Here's the thing. I want her to do her. I don't want her to do anything because of me. And I also don't want her to be in my shadow. Like, I've been fortunate enough that the school has really embraced me. And I went back in 2015. I was the commencement speaker. It was the biggest honor, one of the biggest honors of my life, to go back to my alma mater and to give that commencement speech to all those undergraduates. But I don't want her to feel like, she's Quinn. She's not Sage's daughter. She's Quinn. So she loved it though. Great school, amazing campus. If you haven't been there, it truly is amazing, but it's cold in the winter. So
yes, it is.
We'll see. And she's waiting for this basketball program to fully get back up and go. And I bragged about it for all these years. And I'm like, babe, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what's going to happen to us.
By the way, winter in Indiana doesn't end till May anyway, so that's another.
Exactly. There's 2.5 weeks of summer. It's just like here in New England and Connecticut. It's brutal.
No, my grandmother used to have a joke. She was from North Dakota. If you're from North Dakota and they asked you what you're going to do this summer, they'd say, well, if it comes on a weekend, we'll have a picnic.
It's so sad.
So we'll close with this. Just some of your, so much of a lot of your career has been with the NBA, covering the NBA. Just your take on what's been going on in the NBA, maybe specifically as well with the Washington Wizards right now.
I'll never forget where I was the moment that they said they're suspending games. I think we'll all remember that video of Mark Cuban, and when he's sitting in his seat courtside and saw the phone and was like, what? I got chills going through my body at that moment, because I realized, okay, this is another level, And from there, think about it, the domino effect throughout the entire sports world. I mean, not just in the NBA, but from that point on, every other sport. I think eventually they probably would have done the same thing, but Adam Silver really set the tone for the entire sports world. And then it's interesting, you see President Trump recently saying, we have got to get sports back. And obviously safely, but it's true. It is an escape. It's a beautiful escape, even when it's not a pandemic like now. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've absolutely loved my career and have felt so thankful, because no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what hardships you're going through, no matter where you stand politically, what any drama is going on in your life, I mean, race issues, no matter, for example, football Sundays for 3 hours, we're all on the same team, nothing else matters. And sport brings us together so much. And I think if we can start to slowly, safely bring things back, that's going to change everything for everybody. I love what the Wizards have done, and most teams, I guess, where you guys are, workouts, they're tech, it's all, thanks to technology. And I saw that the Wizards equipment people, you sent stuff out, exercise bands, whatever it was, to make sure you're doing things virtually to make sure you're good. And I look at where you were when this all went down. I mean, hey, playoffs were still within reach. You're just outside that 8th spot. And I'm like, oh, by the way, I love Scotty Brooks. I met him when he was in Oklahoma City, and I just think he's the best human. I absolutely love him, and I'm always following you because I want great things for him. I root for people now, not for teams, but you happen to have a team that I like to root for as well. And then you guys. So I just, no matter what, it's going to come back at some point. Will it look different? Yes. But let's, and fans, Wizards fans, you better get your butt out in those seats. Let's never take this stuff for granted again. In the meantime, I'm going through withdrawal because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my first time not, being in depth in the playoffs, not just on sports, I mean, going on the road since like 2011, 2012. And I knew this a long time ago, but for the first time ever, for the first time in 5 years, not ever, I don't get to go to like Napa Valley and drink a lot of wine during the Golden State Warriors run in the finals. I'm so depressed because they're out. I mean, it's going to be a while, right? I mean, get Clay back, get Steph back, and we'll see. But I guess I'm going to have to go to the local store here in Connecticut and get my wine during June because it's not going to happen in San Francisco. That's for sure.
It's a little bit different than Napa Valley. I'm just guessing up there.
A little bit different.
This is part of the relationship, staying connected with people you care about. And as you talked about, sports is so much part of a relationship, whether we're at a game or not, or it'll be great to be able to have sports back when it's safe, just to be able to talk to people about sports, because that's such a great diversion. Sage Steele from ESPN, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you for having me. But I want everybody to know that Dave and Glenn were so good and kind to me for all those years in DC. And, I was in it personally, just with, giving birth to 3 kids, and I'm pregnant, fat on the set. And you guys, not only were you good and kind to me, you were friends. I always learned when I watched you guys too, and I still do. So keep up the good work. And, I appreciate those years, even though we're getting old, aren't we? It is official. It's been a long time.
Come back. You got to come back to DC a little bit.
I know. I need to. By the way, a lot of good, awesome colleges in DC. Maybe Quinn will decide to come down there, and then you guys can spy on her. And no early trips to any bars in Georgetown.
We're not doing that. We're not spies.
Well, life does come full circle. Remember, all podcasts continue to be on Wizards Radio 24/7 on the Wizards app, as well as SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and Google Play. Remember to follow the Wizards Podcast Network at Wash Wizards PN. There's no excuse not to find us. For Sage Steele, Glenn Contra, I'm Dave Johnson. Thanks for joining us on Full Court Press.